Hello everybody, I'm here at the Home Orchard Society Arboretum on campus with Tanya. You guys met her in the video a couple weeks ago. Today we're going to talk a little bit about fruit tree pruning on apple, and then take a look at some pest and disease problems in the orchard and what we do to control them. So Tanya, thanks for spending some time with us here.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so start it off. We're here with this apple tree. What's going on here?
Yeah, so we're here with this way overloaded apple tree. We did thinning on this tree maybe about four times we thinned this tree. But as you can see, it's a relatively large tree, so semi-dwarf on the larger side of the semi-dwarf. This is a cider variety that has 4 different cider varieties on it. It looks pretty good. There you can see, you can pretty much see a lot of the apples, so that's something that's promising, because that means that there's not a whole lot of shade, and sunlight to the fruit is going to help with ripening, and ripening evenly, ripening properly, and developing those sugars. There is some new growth. That's what we concentrate our summer pruning on, is getting rid of some of the new growth that may be congesting an area or causing shade on some of the lower branches. So for instance, something like this, there's no lower branches down here, but maybe it's just getting a little bit into my walkway, so that's something I want to take into account as well. One thing I want to keep in mind when I'm summer pruning is what kind of pruning cuts am I making, and what's the response from those pruning cuts, and what does the tree actually need? Heading cuts versus thinning cuts. So I'm going to make a thinning cut, which is cutting to a crotch or cutting to another branch, and that's going to help alleviate some of the vegetation. I'm also
nice clean cut there, so you guys can see right up in here.
Yeah. I'm also going to make a heading cut on this, because I don't need that long shoot, but maybe I want to start developing some fruit right in this area. So I'm going to find a bud that has an outward facing orientation, and I'm going to snip right above it, and that's just going to concentrate a lot of the energy into those first 4 to 5 buds, and in a few years the hope is that one of those will turn into a fruit spur, which is what the type of growth that apples and pears fruit on.
So always thinking ahead for the future.
Yes,
in
definitely.
these decisions.
Definitely. So trees that are overcrowded with foliage, you definitely want to really pay attention to heading cuts versus thinning cuts. Heading cuts is going to create more shoots. Thinning cuts is going to alleviate some shoots. So do you want your canopy more dense? Make heading cuts. Do you want to open up your canopy? Make thinning cuts.
Yeah, I try to tell people, it always seems like in the books and stuff we read, oh, well, summer you do thinning cuts, or summer you do heading cuts, but really it's about a specific situation and what you want from it, right?
Exactly. And this is apples and pears that we're primarily talking about. When we get into stone fruit, we're doing a lot more heading cuts, because the growth on stone fruit tends to be really weak and flimsy. And so one of the ways to sturdy up those shoots is to do heading cuts, and that helps to provide and expand a little bit of girth on the existing branch.
And the wood where we see fruit is younger.
Yeah,
so we need more. Yeah.
Definitely. And so you do a lot of thinning cuts and then a lot of heading cuts, where palm fruits, apples, and pears, you're primarily doing thinning cuts. Peaches can actually handle about 50% of their canopy off during a growing season. I'd say plums are pretty close to that as well. There's a different rule out there that the ISA, the International Society of Arboriculture, is using. They're no longer using a 30% rule. So they're using like a third, thin a third, leave a third, head a third. Right? So that's just a different kind of theory to look at when you're talking about your trees. And then of course, you know,
and is that, sorry, on an annual basis or every time you prune?
That is probably on an annual basis. And you know, that's different for everybody. You know, everybody's got a little bit of a different theory.
But in the case of stone fruits, that would be per year, because you're only pruning in the summer.
Yeah,
On the pomes, that would be cumulative.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And so another thing that you want to, why you want to treat trees as individuals, because if I had a branch that was out in my walkway, that would probably be the first thing that I would prune. Not because there's something wrong with the branch or I wanted it to do something for me besides get out of the way. So treat every tree as an individual and just go from it in that, from that point.
Great, thank you.